Hello and welcome to my channel, The Fireside Psychic. My name's Paul. Today we are going to see where the guides take us. I don't have any specific agenda other than I wanted to express my condolences for the family of Queen Elizabeth, being very distantly related. I mean, so far it's almost not a relation, but I am very proud of the fact that she was, in my opinion, just in my opinion, was a pretty amazing person, very committed. Whether you agreed with the way she handled her life or not, you certainly have to give her credit for sticking by her guns. Not many people could carry out that kind of life. I know many people think that because she lived in the lap of luxury that her life was easy, but bird in a gilded cage, basically. She wasn't really free, not at all. And so I try to recognize that, and I know that her family's been really devastated by her death. But as I said in a post that I made on my Facebook page, her duty is done. And now it's time for another journey. And I truly, personally believe that we go on forever. And she's passed to a new experience, a new life, and she'll be back, and she's not gone. And I know that she wishes everyone well and health. I don't want to speak for her, but she did come to me yesterday, which was very unusual. People don't normally show up within hours of passing, but she was so cute too. She had a little blue cardigan sweater on, pearls. She still looked like she did when she was alive. She was very stooped over, and she said that she was terribly worried about all the people grieving for her. And I basically said to her, but anybody who's an adult understands that life is, in a 3D sense, is finite, and we accept that, and we find ways to cope and move on. And she basically looked at me and said, yes, indeed. And I said, you've got this new adventure ahead of you. You shouldn't worry about everyone. They'll be all right. But now it's time for you to go on to your beautiful ascension. And she just nodded at me. She looked very kind of resigned to the whole thing. And then she suddenly had a cane in her hand, and she slowly turned and walked towards what looked like a very distant landscape, quite far away. And that was the end of the conversation. Make of it what you will. I do know that I'm not the only one she visited yesterday. She seemed to have a lot to say to quite a few of the psychics around. I think she just genuinely wanted people to know that she still loved them, and that she didn't want them to worry about her. Anyway, enough of that. So let's just kind of find our center and see what the guides have to say. They're showing me think they want me to talk about the situation with Donald Trump. You know, they're telling me, or this is how I'm interpreting it, that there's so much that has gone on and that is continuing to go on that we will never fully be made aware of, that many of his crimes, and again, this is for entertainment purposes only, many of his crimes were started on almost immediately in his presidency. They're telling me that some of the missing paperwork, particularly the ones on the other countries' nuclear capabilities, that they've been sold. And I understand that a lot of psychics are saying the same things. I'm sorry, I don't mean to repeat stuff that we've all covered many times, but this is what my guides are telling me, so I'm just going to tell you. Yes, they're telling me that this nuclear capabilities document was related to Israel, that Netanyahu is dirty and an agent of the Russian government. Again, for entertainment purposes only, it's just my opinion. It's how I perceive it. Steve Bannon was definitely involved in selling documents. They'd go out onto the yachts. They're showing me a yacht and Steve Bannon selling documents to the Chinese. That guy, I don't know his name, but he is the one that wants to be the emperor of China, or he's like a businessman. Anyway, it's not important, his name. The DOJ, and this is something other psychics have talked about, but I so agreed with it that I feel it bears repeating. The White House is of two different opinions about what to do with Donald Trump. Half of them want this all to just go away as fast as possible because it's so incredibly embarrassing to the United States. And then the other half wants Donald Trump to be prosecuted very publicly and very severely. And I know Biden has been trying all along to really keep things cohesive, keep everybody together on message. And he hasn't commented a lot about the situation. But I think at this point, he's pretty fed up with the situation, and he has basically told the two different groups, go for it, whatever, I'm not going to assert my authority in this situation because I wouldn't be moral, let justice fall where it may. And I think that personally, just based on what my guides are telling me, is not going to go quietly away. I don't see that. I see Donald Trump being arrested. Now, I don't know if there's going to be any kind of perp walk or anything like that. I somehow don't think so, since they have shown that they're going to defer to him in any way possible. Perhaps they don't want to create an excuse for the right to be violent. I don't know. I think they'd like there to be a perp walk. We'll see. They are showing me handcuffs, so maybe there will be a perp walk. I don't know. I don't think he's going to sit in jail while they ready his trial. And as I said in my last video, I don't see him getting convicted. but I do see him in a hospital in the end, whatever that means, whatever that comes, or for however long that's going to be. Excuse me, I'm a little froggy today. We are in the middle of terrible forest fires, and the smoke in the air is over 400 parts per million, and that's pretty bad for human health. So it affects my voice. Anyway, back to the issue at hand. I mean, Merrick Garland, I think he's pretty much made up his mind that there's going to be a trial. You know, they filed 3 charges, sealed charges this morning in Washington, D.C. that are attached to the Mar-a-Lago search case. So, hey, I'm telling you, those charges against Donald Trump, for sure. At least in what my guides are showing me, or what I see. Donald's not happy. I would say he's a very desperate man. But you know, I want to put out a warning there. Animals are the most dangerous when they're cornered. And I believe at this point, he would try almost anything. I mean, we know he tried to call the DOJ up and sort of make a little thinly veiled threat. I think they're going to go after Donald Trump, not only for the spy stuff, but I think they're going to go after it as a RICO thing, an organized crime syndicate type thing. That way they can sweep up the maximum amount of people. It won't just be against Donald Trump. It'll be Donald Trump and his co-conspirators. Yeah, I feel that very strongly. I wish I could be as eloquent as some of the other psychics are. I know how things are going to work. It's just very difficult to try to explain the images. Like, I see handcuffs on hands. I see documents being looked through on a desk. But they don't appear to be being looked through by the DOJ or Donald Trump, which tells me somebody's looking at them. Spies, possibly. Yeah. I mean, really, ultimately, and I've been saying this for quite a long time, though you may not know this because you probably aren't familiar with my blogs, but all roads lead back to Russia. I'm going to say 80% of the trouble going on in the world is being organized and orchestrated by Russia, at least up to this point. Now, I think that Putin is starting to lose some power in his government, but he still very much controls the security apparatus of Russia, and he has worked very diligently, whether you're aware of it or not. He's been putting spies in everywhere. I mean, there have been, it's really been covered in the media very much, though here and there. There's been 3 spies arrested, one in the DOJ, that was 2 or 3 days ago, I think. Another one was arrested in the International Law Court, which would oversee any international prosecutions of Russian operatives. And then, what was the other one? Another government agency, too. And, Biden is well aware of all this, and he's been aware of this for the whole time. I mean, we're just now starting to hear about it, but I can assure you the day that, well, possibly, no, before even Biden won the election, they were giving him briefings about what was going on. And that's why on day one, the very first order Biden signed was to take Donald Trump's daily briefings away because they knew even then that he had been selling secrets to the Russians. Not just the Russians, the Chinese. I think that that nuclear secrets document that everybody keeps talking about was, like I said, was about the capabilities of Israel. And I know, officially Israel doesn't have nuclear weapons, but they have nuclear weapons. Trust me, they do. They're just very quiet about it. They keep their cards close to their chest. And I think that they sold those to Saudi Arabia. Hence the $2 billion deal for Jared Kushner. I think Jared Kushner was the front man for that. Yeah, talk about your Machiavellian, or not Machiavellian, sorry, that's the wrong time period. Your Byzantine, plots within plots within plots. I mean, this thing is deep, and it involves a lot of people, and it has infiltrated our government. And I believe that Biden has taken very strong countermeasures to weed out those people. However, you have to remember the CIA is involved in this too, as well as the FBI. And I think they're possibly, I don't agree with this behavior, but in the past, the standard operating procedure on spies was to not always arrest them, sometimes to leave them in place because they could then monitor what they're doing, and they could also potentially feed them false information. And I think that the Russians do have spies within our government. I think they infiltrated the CIA, the FBI. Oh, that was where the spy was arrested, was the FBI, I think. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, there are spies, and Biden has spent the last, 18, 19, 20 months getting down to the bottom of that, who is who and who is loyal and who isn't loyal, And there's a lot of Trump people, too, who are maybe technically not spies, but they could be unwilling participants in spy activity. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying I believe that, the Russians have been manipulating us for decades to get us to this point, which brings up the whole other issue. We're super divided because of this. There's been a lot of propaganda spread to create. They've honed in on the segment of the population that has grievances, and they've fed those grievances by giving them a common enemy, and that's the left. But the left isn't their enemy. Their left has, I think, tried to ensure that everybody gets a fair shake in this country, but they don't see it that way. They see it as being deprived of their rights. And I think that's actually starting to resolve, though it may not appear. Well, again, it's a very complicated situation. My guides are telling me there are many, many factions within the faction. So again, that whole Byzantine plots within plots. There are groups that are dangerous. There are groups that are just mouthy, okay? And they threaten, but I don't think the vast majority of MAGA people will, in the end, when pressed, going to step up to save Donald Trump. The more that comes out about his spying, the more disreputable he becomes in their eyes. Now, they are telling the pollsters or whoever is interviewing them how in love they are with Donald Trump. They're not being truthful. They will not give anybody the satisfaction of knowing. Plus, it's terribly embarrassing to admit you backed a bad horse, you know? They're not going to give them the satisfaction by telling them that they've shifted their position. They're going to tell them how much they love Donald Trump and how much they want him for president. But they don't want him for president anymore. There's very few of them who really think Donald Trump is relevant. Even to them, it's becoming very apparent that Donald Trump is pretty unhinged. You know, they really love owning the libs. You know what I'm saying? They love that. And that's the only thing that's really keeping them kind of going to his rallies. They love listening to him just diss on various people. But you know, that's entertainment, basically. And there's a big difference between enjoying listening to somebody trash talk about your enemy and what you actually intend to do politically. Now, I'm not saying they're going to vote for Democrats. I don't see that. I mean, they really hate the Democrats. They've been pushed that way for years now. But let's look at the other Republicans, which is actually the majority of the Republicans. I've said this before, and again, this is a relatively new channel, so you guys don't know this, but I've been telling people for years, the number of people who are MAGA is very tiny. My guides told me at the height of the MAGA movement, when everyone was still completely on board with Donald Trump, it was only 14% of the population. Now, I know the media wants you to think that they're just this huge, like 33% of the population. It's not. It is not. It is not. I cannot stress that enough. It's not even 14% now. I personally just psychically pick up that it has been dropping steadily over the course of the last 6 or 8 months. Anybody who was possibly going to look at things and make some sort of attempt to assess the situation, they're dropping away. Okay, they are 11% maybe. I think by the time November comes around, the midterms, Donald Trump's base is going to be less than 7% of the population. I mean, I hate to be so precise about it, but my guides say those numbers to me. 7%. That's all. That is not enough people to create a civil war. That is not enough people to move an election. Now, I know there's a lot of people freaked out about this whole civil war thing. As I started to mention, a significant portion of the MAGA people are all talk. They are not going to come out on the street. I mean, the average age of a MAGA person is pushing 60 years old. I am 60 years old. I could not get out in the streets, even when I was really physically fit, which was less than 6-7 years ago. I couldn't have gotten out even then and fought like that. It takes a lot of strength and stamina to wage war, okay? You just got to be practical about these things. There's a lot of fear-mongering going on. And again, I cannot stress enough the media's attempt to keep you all engaged in a them and us conversation so that they can spur your insecurities, make you feel fearful so that you will keep tuning in and by extension watching their commercials, because that's what it's really about, is them making money. Which brings up another issue. You know, the corporations have really in many ways been responsible for bringing us to this place that we're at. And I think for the first time, people are starting to realize how incredibly dangerous they are. And again, this is for entertainment purposes only. Yeah, we've got to rein them in. And I do think slowly they are going to lose power, but not this whole thing with our politics is going to run its course long before the issue of the money, the dark money, the corporations paying off people to get their way. That has got to shift. And it is shifting because consciousness is shifting. The consciousness of the United States and really the world. But I have to be honest with you. The shift that's going on is bigger here right now because we're faced with such a contrast. You know, you cannot recognize good without knowing what dark is. And I only use those terms because they are in our lexicon and they evoke the true meaning of what I'm trying to say. Remember, I've told you there isn't really good and evil. It's low vibration or high vibration. But the vibration in the United States is like supercharged. I mean, we had our covers ripped off of us. We all thought everything was just going along great. Maybe we didn't like a lot of things. Maybe there was a lot of us who recognized early on, and when I say early on, I mean decades ago, that the country was unfair, not out of balance. But you got to get a momentum going. And this last, I'm going to say since the 60s, really, the momentum has been building. And while there have been people who have fallen away, for every one person who's fallen away, 2 or 3 people have come on board. Mm-hmm. And this movement towards a shift in consciousness is really gaining speed. You really see it in kids. I mean, they just are so smart. I mean, they're starseeds, you know? They've come here to make this shift. Many of you have come here to make this shift. Probably if you're watching this, I'm going to say all of you have come here to make this shift. I most definitely know I've come here to make a shift. I don't know how many people I will ever reach, but that is not the point. The point is the doing, the believing, the talking about it. Even if you can't physically do anything to change the circumstances of other people's lives, just thinking about it changes it. You know, you can measure scientifically the change in energy around a person who is thinking a certain thought pattern. It's measurable. It's scientifically provable. It's based on quantum theory. Just thinking positive thoughts or thinking higher intentions brings about a change. And again, I do not mean to preach, because I know I can be very preachy. I just want you to feel some of the excitement that I feel for the future. This situation we're in now is very heavy. There's going to be a lot of bombshells dropping, particularly like in this month or two that we're in right now, September, October. Then come November, we're going to be very taken up with the midterms, and that's good because we need to be really focused on that. And then in December, we're going to get back to it. So September, October, December are, I think, probably going to be the most difficult emotionally for the vast majority of us. There's a lot of panic right now. People feel like, oh my God, what more? I thought, that I was immune to heartache and sad news because we've had